name is Carl Dawes, and I will be doing my presentation on the United Nations Peacekeepers. In the course of this slideshow, I will talk to you about who the Peacekeepers are, how they came to be, what they have done and are doing right now, and how they are funded. UN Peacekeepers are a military force created and used by the United Nations Security Council to help protect and preserve countries from crisis, as well as to help support peace agreements and resolve conflict. Peacekeeping missions involve troops who are unarmed or lightly armed that are tasked primarily with monitoring, reporting about, and aiding war-torn countries. The Peacekeepers, aka Blue Berets or Blue Helmets, are citizens from member countries around the world made up of military personnel, police officers, and civilians. The United Nations peacekeeping began in 1948 when the Security Council authorized the deployment of UN military observers to the Middle East. The mission's role was to monitor the armistice agreement between Israel and its Arab neighbors, an operation which became known as the United Nations Truce Supervision Organization, which still operates to this day. The United Nations peacekeepers do exactly as the name suggests. They attempt to keep the peace. They do this by deploying to countries to protect civilians and help prevent conflict, while also building a rule of law and attempting to establish new security institutions such as military forces and police. They also work to advance political solutions in lieu of creating any more conflict. They also work to promote human rights and peace wherever they go. After their first mission, the peacekeepers began deploying to other areas around the world. Some of the most notable earlier missions are the UN Emergency Force Mission, which deployed to the Suez Crisis in 1956 and was the first armed deployment of the peacekeepers. The UN operation in the Congo was launched in 1960 and was the first large-scale mission with nearly 20,000 troops deployed. This mission also saw the risks of peacekeeping as 250 UN personnel died while serving here. After the Cold War, the peacekeeper operations began to change. They started to bring in more non-military personnel such as legal experts, police, political advisors, and more to assist in rebuilding governments and aiding in peace agreements. Between 1989 and 1994, peacekeeping operations began to surge. The Security Council authorized 20 new missions in places like Cambodia, El Salvador, and Angola. The number of peacekeepers also surged from 11,000 to 75,000. The reason for this upsurge was to help implement complex peace agreements, stabilize the security situations, reorganize military and police, and elect new governments and build democratic institutions. Currently, there are 12 peacekeeping operations going on around the world. 6 of them in Africa, 4 in the Middle East, 1 in Kosovo, and 1 in India and Pakistan. The number of personnel has also risen to over 110,000, and the number of contributing countries sits at about 121. Over the last 75 years, since the beginning, the peacekeepers have operated in over 70 different missions and have collectively had over 1 million troops and personnel. The peacekeepers strive to do so much good in all the areas they deploy to around the world and continue to aid and rebuild war-torn countries while promoting and assisting in peace negotiations. As you may have guessed, these peacekeeping operations are not cheap, and the bill is shared among member states of the United Nations. This is part of Article 17 of the Charter of the United Nations. Collectively, the peacekeepers receive a budget of around $6 billion a year to fund their operations. The largest financial contributors being the United States, China, Japan, Germany, the UK, France, Italy, Russia, Canada, and Korea. In conclusion, the UN Peacekeepers are a much needed and necessary organization to assist countries around the world in rebuilding, preventing conflict, and negotiating peace. The Peacekeepers do so much good across the globe and have even been awarded a Nobel Peace Prize in 1988. The Nobel Committee stated, "The peacekeeping forces, through their efforts, have made important contributions towards the realization of one of the fundamental tenets of the United Nations. Thus, the World Organization has come to play a more central part in world affairs and has been invested with increasing trust." Thank you.